This is the Insta360 One-R with 1-inch mod, produced in conjunction with Leica. It's an f3.2 aperture, equivalent 14.4mm lens, and with a 1-inch sensor that produces incredibly sharp, crisp 5.3K resolution video. That's incredible. It is the highest resolution, largest sensor action camera that you can buy today. I'm James Bruce, you're watching MakeUseOf.com reviews, and today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the Insta360 One-R with 1-inch mod. So if you're wondering, didn't we already review the Insta360 One-R earlier in the year? Then you'd be right, we did. And if you'd like to learn more about the core features of the One-R, the app, and specifically the 360 mod, then I'd suggest going to check out that review, link in the description. In this review, I want to focus purely on the new 1-inch Leica lens mod that they've added. As ever, I'm shooting this entire review on the Insta360 with 1-inch mod itself to give you a really good idea of the quality of footage in a variety of environments. However, I should note that I'm using this external recorder because despite sending me a external mic to USB-C input, I found that in quiet environments like this, there was some kind of noise being introduced that didn't really sound very good. Hopefully they can fix that in firmware. I didn't really notice it that much when I was outside, but here's a mic test so you can see for yourself. So right now you're listening to the external recorder. Now you should be hearing the Rode Wireless Go going into the Insta360 One-R through their USB-C to external mic converter. So that's an external microphone going directly into the Insta360 One-R. Although there's a bit of wind there, I don't know if it's going to pick that up. Now if I just unplug that, now you should be hearing the audio from the built-in microphone on the Insta360 One-R itself. As you can tell, it's not that great. It does pick up a lot of noise as well, but that's what it sounds like if you don't have an external recorder or an external microphone going directly into it. So just to be clear, this new 1-inch mod with the Leica lens can either be bought individually for existing One-R owners, effectively if you just want to upgrade your 4K mod lens, or if you're not interested in the 360 mod that came with the original twin package, then you can buy the new package consisting of just this lens, the body, and the battery. So you don't need to waste any money on lenses that you don't need. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to focus purely on the new 1-inch mod lens and the capabilities of that. I'm going to compare it side-by-side footage to the old 4K mod. Going to really zoom that in to show you some of the differences, and we're going to try that in a variety of environments, outdoors like today, as well as indoor and particularly low light environments. So 5.3K resolution, that's a bewildering number of Ks. I'm going to try and upload this to YouTube at the full 5.3K resolution output. So click on that little gear in the corner and have a look and see if it lets you actually watch in that. It may be downgrading it to a maximum of 4K, but we'll see. And to be honest, I only just bought a 4K TV. Given that 4K adoption isn't that wide yet, why would you want 5.3K? Well, for the same reason that you would record in 4K even if you were outputting at 1080p. The fact that you have that extra resolution gives you a buffer in which you can crop and stabilize and do other creative effects. The thing is, when you record at 1080p, because you're outputting a 1080p video, anytime you crop the footage, it means that you're actually losing resolution. You're effectively blowing it up, zooming in, and you tend to see a lot of pixelation in the output, which you really don't want. So it's always a good idea to record at a higher resolution than you actually need. That said, working with that full 5.3K resolution is a lot more taxing on the computer. It took a good couple of hours to output just half hour's worth of footage on a year-old MacBook Pro, and even then the files are massive, over 1 GB per minute. So the other point about being a 5.3K resolution camera is not so much the resolution itself, but the fact that the resolution stems from having a bigger sensor. And the reason you want a bigger sensor is so that you can make better use of the available light. And of course, this is most important in low light situations. That's where you're really going to see more benefits from having that bigger sensor. So you can see this in the side-by-side video here, but it's even more impressive using the AI night shot technology, which is a little bit like HDR photos, but in the daytime. Sadly, I live in the country and there's really no flashy tall buildings to show this off that well. In general though, still images on the Insta360 One-R with 1-inch mod are far better than they have any right to be. So what are some other things you need to know about the Insta360 One-R with 1-inch mod? Well, firstly, the minimum focus distance is around 90 centimeters, which is about what I'm using here with this extendable selfie stick. Now, while that's fine for me walking around my garden with this big long selfie stick or sitting in a studio with a tripod at a fixed distance, it may not be so good if you're wanting to do some vlogging. In a city or in a sort of crowded environment, you probably don't want to hold your camera a meter away from you. Now, that's not to say it's unwatchable if you hold the camera closer, but there is a slight bit of blur that you'll see around your face. If I bring the camera up to sort of here, oh, don't like it that close, let's go back. So the fact that objects in the very close foreground on the 1-inch mod will actually be a bit blurry could be seen as a good thing, because it allows you to have a sort of depth of field and avoid that stereotypical action camera look, where with action cameras, generally anything close to far tends to be pin sharp, and it looks exactly like it was taken on an action camera. With the 1-inch mod, if you put something very close in the foreground, it'll have that bit of blur and just look a bit nicer, I think. You can work that to your advantage, but again, for vlogging, it may not be so suitable. You might want to stick with something else for that. Perhaps the 360 mod. Now, while the camera does also have a log color mode, as you can probably see, this looks great. I find the colors to be vivid, vibrant, just on the standard color mode. Really haven't felt the need to enable log. So on the 1-inch mod, you can shoot ultra wide, wide, linear, or narrow, which you can choose in the software or in the app after you've shot. The camera itself will always record at the widest possible full resolution, then you're going to cut that down later. Oh, I should also note that if you're using the app on your smartphone, then your final output is limited to 4K resolution. There's no such limits if you're using the PC software, but on the app, it's more a limitation of smartphones, to be honest. Finally, let's briefly talk about image stabilization, because that is one of the standout features of the Insta360 One-R, and it's even better with the 1-inch mod. So to demo this, I rode down my incredibly bumpy lane, to which many tires have been sacrificed, I might add, with the 1-inch mod mounted to my chest. And I've output these side by side, one with stabilization turned on and one with it off. Now, you can get even greater stabilization if you narrow the field of view more, but I left this on wide. Of course, with that higher resolution of 5.3K, when you're narrowing it down like that, as I said, you're keeping a lot more of the details, but I think you'll agree anyway. The difference that the stabilization in the One-R makes is absolutely incredible. As well as 5K at 24 or 30 FPS, you can shoot 4K 60 FPS or 1080p 120 FPS. But let's face it, you're not buying the camera to shoot at 1080p. Lastly, the One-R can be prone to fogging up if you're using it in a hot and humid environment. So much so, in fact, that Insta360 actually includes this little backy and some silica gel packets, desiccants, which they say you should completely disassemble the camera for and keep it in here for about 6 hours before shooting in that sort of environment. Of course, that's not something I've experienced, given that it's autumn here in the UK and we barely have sunlight, let alone high temperatures. But you might. So officially, the Insta360 One-R with the 1-inch mod is waterproof to a depth of 5 meters. However, they do also sell a dive case if you specifically want to take it deeper. But given that the camera is $550, if you buy it as a new set, I probably wouldn't be taking it underwater anyway, not without that full waterproof dive case. It's just not worth the risk. And that brings me on to the last point, which is the cost. If you don't own the original twin edition to upgrade from, then you'll have to buy new, which is $550 complete for just the 1-inch mod lens, plus the battery and body. Now, while that's certainly better value than buying the whole thing again and then upgrading just the lens, it's still a lot of money. This is not a budget option by any means, but I think you'll agree, 5.3K resolution, the largest sensor ever. The footage is incredible. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video or just liked watching some videos of my piggos and chickens. In either case, please hit the like button. It would really help us. Also, do consider subscribing to this channel. Make use of reviews for more weekly tech reviews, gadget giveaways, tech tutorials, and more from all of us over at makeuseof.com. Until next time.